Welcome to the Vector Garden. In this video, we're going to talk about how to create this kind of artwork. These are layered on top of each other, so there are several elements that blend into each other. In this video, we are just going to talk about how to create the base artwork of those lines that are in this S shape and how to get that. So there are two methods to do that. And one thing you can do is just have this kind of line here, and I'm going to smooth this slightly. So let's use the smooth function. And then what you're going to apply to this is a gradient, and the gradient needs to be applied to the stroke. So we're going to just start with that, but it actually doesn't matter. And we're going to make this wider so we have better control over these stops down here. And now you can set up the stops. We're going to set up the colors and have some bright colors in there and some bright colors to the left and to the right. So let's do it like this. And I'm alt dragging this stop and set this to 0 opacity, and here as well 0 opacity. And then we're going to the next one. So I'm going to start with this here and have it in another bright color. And then let's make a copy, set this to 0 opacity, and make another copy on the other side, like that. And this one, of course, needs to be 100%. Then we have the next color, maybe in a bright yellow. And again, set this to 100%, move one to the left and another one to the right. So I hope you get the idea. So let's use this one and make a copy here and another copy on the other side. And then let's have a bright pink one again here, and again 0 and 0. This now, of course, needs to be applied like that, and then we need this thing thicker, and you see we're getting there. This is already nice, and you can shape this further by applying a width profile. Now it looks like you have little control. Of course you can use the width tool on it, and I'd probably do that and make it slightly thicker here because it's easier afterwards then. But in order to get better control over this, in order to be able to have these stripes fade out in the end, what we need is a gradient mesh. And to get there, we need to just go to Object, Expand Appearance. And once you do that, you get a gradient mesh that you can then further manipulate. But you see, there are a lot of mesh lines in it. So always when you expand a gradient, you get a lot of those lines. You can, of course, delete them using the mesh tool, select them and delete the ones that are in between. But that could be a little tedious. So there's another option that you can create this. And this time we're going to start with a rectangle. This is just black. The color doesn't really matter, only slightly, but we're going to see that. With this rectangle, we're going to create a gradient mesh. And using that mesh tool, we're just going to set up the grid lines that we need for this gradient mesh grid. So I'm just going to use a few of them. And then we're going to use the direct selection tool to just select some of these lines and apply a bright color to them. So like this, and then like this. And you can use the direct selection tool to move those meshes around. But if you also want to have them fade out in the end, then we need an additional grid line. So we need additional grid lines here. You see I had green selected and then click there. So it's now green. I'm going to set it to black, and here again. And in order to fade them out, we're just going to select these and then have the opacity set to 0. And the same with these here and these here. And of course, down here as well. So select them, set them to 0, and here and here. So now we have them fade out. The next thing is we want to control this black in between. So now it's really black. So if you move it over something else, then of course it's just hidden. So if you want these to be transparent, you have to select these points and have them at 0 opacity. And again, if you want to better control this blend here, then you might want to have these in green as well. So I'm going to use this green. With that, you might get a better transition in there. I'm going to leave these because you can check this out and try it the way you need it. We now want to get it into this S shape. And for that, we can, of course, select them and move those grids around. So we can select them and move them around. But there's another way. We can apply an envelope. So let's go to Object, Envelope, Distort, and make with Warp. And here you see you've got all the options. This is set to flag because I have used flag before. And also, usually flag is like this. You can set it to vertical and then you get this nice shape with just some mouse clicks. Okay, so now you have a gradient mesh inside of an envelope mesh, and this is a little complicated to handle. So if you want it easier to handle, and if you're more or less done with this and do not need to edit the options anymore, then you can go to Object, Envelope, Distort, and expand this. And now you're left with only the gradient mesh, and the envelope distort is just applied. And you can directly go and edit this if you like. So if you want to shape them differently and have them more dynamic, then you can just go ahead and do that. And of course, when you do that, you need to watch out exactly where those grid lines are. So of course, they should not cross because then you get all sorts of weird gradients, but they're a lot of fun to work with, so you can move them around anywhere you want and get a real dynamic look with them. And also, of course, you can go up here and again edit this and do some nice things at the end here so that those look more dynamic as well. So that's how you can build the base for those light streaks and get some nice results.